All right, welcome everyone to this Association of Women Art Dealers tour with Julie Taylor of Guns and Rain, who is going to take us through the 154 Art Fair. My name is Susan, I'm the founder of AWAD, and I'm handing straight over to Julie so she can make the most of this wonderful opportunity to show us this fair in London. Julie, over to you.
Thanks so much, Susan, and thanks to everyone for joining. As Susan has said, this is quite a unique experience sitting for the first time on the other side of the world from an art fair that my gallery is presenting. So yeah, I'm in Johannesburg and we work with artists from 7 different countries across the continent. And this is our second year at 154 in London. So I'm just going to share some slides here, and I'm going to go back to the beginning. Sorry about that. Okay, there we go. So yeah, like I said, this is our second year running at 154, and for those of you who haven't visited, it's held at Somerset House on the Strand in London. The Thames is on the one side, the Strand is on the other. It's this very kind of a glorious building, and as you can see, this is a photo from today, so the weather happens to be excellent today. And this is my friend who's just had a baby, and I think the baby is the youngest visitor to the booth thus far. She's about 4 months old. So there they are. I just wanted to show you the outside of Somerset House, and when you, well, if I go back, you can see it's sort of like it's a big courtyard. All the galleries, those windows that you see, all the galleries are along there in individual rooms. So the great thing is that it's very well designed for COVID. They've actually been able to manage the sort of the circulation and the flow quite well, because each gallery has its own room. So this is the entrance to our booth, which is actually a divided room shared with another space, but it feels kind of like your own room. And this photograph was taken just after installation was completed. So yeah, there you go. There's some panoramic views of the booth. It makes it look bigger than it is, but that's why we like panoramics, right? So yeah, we're presenting 2 artists this year. One of them is from South Africa. His name is Tina Dube, and he's actually on the call. Now, I wasn't sure if he was going to join or not. I'm slightly nervous about talking about his work in front of him, but let's see what I let's see what I make of it, Tina. So this is Tina's work. We've been working together for quite a few years, and I'll come back to him just now. This is just a close-up. We're gonna watch a video just now, but this gives you a quick introduction to Tina's work. The second artist is Thuli Makonjo. She's from Namibia. Namibia has a very small art scene. Artists from there are generally underrepresented globally, and Thuli was actually the first female Namibian artist ever to show at 154 last year. And she works in mixed media, and I'll tell you a bit more about her work shortly. Her work is quite difficult to photograph, and of course, this is one of the things that we're all experiencing at the moment with this kind of online world, and how to really communicate about art when it's actually difficult to photograph quite a lot of it. These are the other stars of the show. This is Shu Tong, who is our intern from Oxford, with her new kitten, who's called Rustam, and Rustam is apparently the #1 fictional hero from Persian literature. She is learning classical Persian at the moment, amongst other things. So that's Shu Tong. And then Andrea, who I think most of you know already, because she is the London coordinator for AWAD. And it's been really fantastic to have her in the booth the last few days. And yeah, both of them have made me feel much more relaxed, even though I am so far away. So I think I have to stop sharing now and then start sharing again to show you the video.
And it really is fabulous to get that context, to see who's on the booth representing the gallery. Julie and I were previously talking about how this is kind of, upon yourself, Julie, forced this delegation of other people representing the gallery, and sounds like you're having a great experience. Back over to you.
Thanks. Yeah, it is going really well. And I mean, I think one of the things I've also noticed, and we can talk about this more, you know, as in our capacities as gallerists and dealers, is that often, you know, you'll stay up half the night doing all the admin after the fair. At the moment, the model we have is that, you know, I have 2 people on the booth at most of the time, and then I'm obviously here, but I'm taking care of the admin throughout the day as well. So I'm actually really busy as well, but it means that they can really focus on, you know, meeting and greeting and talking. So without further ado, this is the video that Andrea and Shutong took yesterday for us. Most grateful. And this is Tina Dubé's work. So as the video plays, I'm going to give you a brief introduction to Tina. He is South African, born and bred in Johannesburg. He is also a teacher. He teaches at a secondary art school here in Joburg. He's also an art therapist who's worked with children with special needs. And this body of work is really interesting. His work is all about identity and identity politics. And over the last few years, sometimes he sort of considers society around him, and sometimes he turns inwards. And I think this body of work is very introspective. It's a lot about memory, it's about attachment, it's about loss in relation to both people and objects. And there's an interesting tension in his work presented here. Some of it very much tells a narrative story, while some of it appears to be in a kind of still life genre. So there's an interesting tension between sort of the narrative and the capturing of the still life. But it's very much self-reflexive body of work. The sunflower comes up a lot in his work, as you can see. For him, it represents memory. It's a symbol for memory, and the sunflower moves in response to the sun moving across the sky, as we know. And to this extent, you know, memories are not static, but they're dynamic, and they change through time. They create an interplay between internal and external factors. And this is something really interesting about human psychology. So we'll come back to Tina just now. We're moving on to Thuli Makonjo here. As I mentioned, her work is quite hard to photograph and video. So I might take you back to some stills after this. Thuli is from Namibia. She's a self-taught artist. She works in mixed media. These are canvases with acrylic, embroidered, sort of stitched embroidery, collage, paint, resin, and also a food grain, it's a millet, which is the staple food of Namibia. And she actually sprinkles that onto the surface of her canvases and then fixes it with a blowtorch with resin. So her work is actually, the surfaces are very textured. And yeah, you can see a little bit of it here. Actually, you can see the kind of the grainy surface. Her interests are very much to do with history, identity, spirituality. And this body of work is really an attempt to try and remember what pre-colonial life might have been like in a typical part of northern Namibia. And actually the first European contact in this part of Namibia was actually with Finnish missionaries. I think a lot of Europeans probably don't know that, but Finnish missionaries went there around 1870. So these works are very much about change, resistance, and cultural erasure as well. We're back to Tina Dubé here. Tina, when I first met him, was actually doing a lot of printmaking. He's continued to be a printmaker. He does not usually create editions. He usually creates monotypes. These are all monotypes in a series of small works. Again, you know, very much about memory. He also refers to this theatre convention of breaking the fourth wall, inviting people to kind of project themselves into those empty faces and into those silhouettes, and try and create a sort of sense of relationship between yourself and the artwork. And here we're going back to see some of the sunflowers. And again, you'll see the sort of the empty silhouette in the background. Okay, there we go. So I wasn't quite sure how long it was going to go on for, but it was about 4 minutes. So I hope you got a good sense of the booth. I'll just wrap up talking about the artists, and then we can maybe take a few questions and talk about these new hybrid times that we find ourselves in. So yeah, just finishing up on Tina. One of the other things in these artworks, you will have seen the sunflower symbol. There's also an enamel mug that appears in his artworks repeatedly. And for him, this was a symbol of childhood, because when children are growing up here, they're often given this unbreakable enamel mug to drink out of. But at the same time, that enamel mug is also associated with the history of domestic servitude during apartheid, and I suppose the infantilization of Black people during apartheid as well, and the ascription of sort of inferior social status. So that mug is a symbol for both, I think, a very personal family experience, but also a much broader social experience of South Africa's history. And then going back to Thuli's work again, let me just bring up one more. I'll just go back to my slides just to reference this one work. Can we go back? Yes. Yes, so just to have a visual reference. So, you know, for her, Christianity was really a harbinger of huge change, a lot of cultural erasure and suppression of different types. And she goes back and she looks at different cultural practices, naming practices, indigenous hairstyles, sacrificial rites, a lot of things which sort of disappeared or were very much diluted during the colonial period. And for me, you know, she brings back these symbols in multiples. You know, where there are these dolls, there are multiple of them. Where the hair combs, the hairstyle combs, the combs appear in multiples, and the beer gourds appear in multiples. So for me, it kind of feels like she's trying to sort of urge back to life a lot of sort of cultural history that was lost and erased in different ways. And she also has a performance practice. So actually, these images that you see, I don't know if you can see my mouse hovering there.
Yes, we can.
But you know, these are photographic transfers, often of her in a performance costume, which she then transfers onto the canvas. And she has a performance practice as well. So there's an interesting sort of circular relationship between performance and the 2D artworks. Anyway, so I think I'll finish there, Susan, if that's okay. And then we have about 10 minutes for questions and discussions.
Absolutely. So we're going to open this up to the floor to get questions from people in terms of both the art and the experience, I think, of yourself as a gallerist who is across much water and land from where the art fair is taking place. And I think, Julie, one question that I've immediately got, so please, I'm going to encourage people to pop questions or even comments into the chat room. One thing that I'm wondering is that I was informed several days ago that the VIP tickets had sold out for the fair. So what are the reports from the number of visitors? Are all of those VIPs actually visiting? What's the story in terms of numbers and the actual willingness for people to be visiting the event? Because you're right, Somerset House is very spacious, and I hope that they are actually using those tickets if they bought them.
Yeah, so look, yesterday I spoke to a number of collectors on the phone, and they all just seemed so excited to be able to go to a fair in person. They just, you know, everyone had the sense of, gosh, I've been missing like seeing art in the flesh. I've been missing this thing, and it's great to have it back. So I think there's been overall a great response to the fact that the fair has happened. And of course, all of us were on tenterhooks until the last minute because, you know, sooner or later we had to ship and get going with things. And at the same time, you know, Boris was back in Parliament talking about a possible lockdown, and it was quite nerve-wracking. And I had already sent off all the art. But I think going back to the VIPs, yesterday was very busy. The way that they've had to structure the flow of the fair means that people kind of come in waves or clumps, and sort of every hour I think the booth gets very busy and then it gets quite quiet and then very busy and then quite quiet. And that's just the COVID management. Today apparently has been quite a lot quieter. So I mean, traditionally Fridays tend to be quiet at fairs, but at least until the late afternoon. But I get the impression that there's certainly some, and this was actually another VIP day. So unfortunately, I think some of them have booked and not shown up, which is a bit disappointing. Tomorrow is the last day. It doesn't run on Sunday this year. And tomorrow is the so-called public day. And I believe that's sort of booked out as well. So I think in terms of bookings and reservations, it's gone very well. A little bit disappointing that it was a bit quiet today, but it might still pick up this evening. We've still got a few hours to go. And then tomorrow I expect is going to be busy because, you know, it's Saturday only, no Sunday.
Wow. So it really is. I mean, those opening days is a shorter period of time, but I suppose also the practicalities of installing the fair, taking down the fair, that presumably more time is needed than normal.
Well, I also wondered if they had to take extra time to put in place whatever COVID measures they needed. I mean, I don't know if they have to sanitize the whole place at the end of the fair, or, you know, I don't know what they have to do. I have heard that Somerset House is really on top of all things COVID related, which is great. But yeah, it does feel like it's all been sort of compressed.
And we've got a question from one of our members, which is, compared to a normal fair and traffic, would you say due to COVID management, it's 50% less people at a time, or more or less? Just trying to imagine the scene.
Gosh, I mean, I don't know, MK. I've also been trying to imagine the scene. And I've been trying to get sort of feedback from Andrea and Shutong. And of course, they've given me feedback. But, you know, in the case of Shutong, it's her first time working at a fair, so I think she's not always used to, and she's been on the booth on her own sometimes, so she's not quite sure what to expect, what kind of numbers to expect. She thinks that we had at least 150 or so people through yesterday, but then she said, oh, I'm not sure, maybe it was more. So I mean, for a VIP day, that's actually, I think that's okay. But you know, ordinarily this fair would have something like, I think 17 or 18,000 people through. I think I need to double check what the figures were last year, but it was something around there. So look, I think the numbers are a lot less, but I do think that the collectors who came yesterday were serious collectors. I mean, our sales went very well yesterday, so they were keen. So yeah, they were there and they were keen and they were buying.
That's amazing. That is so awesome. I was, of course,
really
wanting to ask
news.
that question as well. And on the note of the sales, is that what's the word on the ground from what you're hearing as well?
Yeah, so again, I haven't got that much intel. I've been quite caught up with just staying on top of all the admin, but our neighbors had quite a lot of reserves yesterday. I didn't think they'd had any sales by the evening, but quite a few reserves. And the other neighbors I'm yet to hear from. I did meet another colleague online who said that her booth had been very busy, but I don't know how her sales have been. So probably tonight I'll check in with a few people and see how they're doing.
And just seeing, okay, so maybe there's a COVID filter at play during these events, is what's being said. And actually, my understanding was that some galleries are also exhibiting online with the fair. Is that right? Is there an online element?
Yes. So they actually partnered with Christie's for the first time. I think Christie's has been wanting to kind of get a foot into the African art market because they haven't had much of a presence there versus say Bonhams and some of the South African auction houses. So yeah, there's a partnership with Christie's, and we were able to, I think, upload up to 30 works on the Christie's platform, and that is running over a longer period of time online. And then in addition, they have a physical showroom at their King Street branch. And all the galleries were allowed to put forward one artwork, which is being shown physically at Christie's.
Oops.
So again, it's quite a nice hybrid model. I like the idea of reaching a different audience, perhaps one which doesn't know much about contemporary African art. And yeah, I mean, it's a great opportunity to be in a prestigious venue and location like that. And then of course there's artsy as well. So the fair is also an artsy. So yeah, there's sort of layers of duplication and hybridity. It's quite interesting.
And the fact that clearly people are keen to be getting out and seeing actually art in the flesh, which people haven't been able to do for months and months. So far as I'm aware, this is the only art fair taking place during what would have otherwise been Freeze Week. So
that's my understanding as well. That's my understanding as well. Although I'm not an expert on all the different fairs. I know there's usually a lot and quite a few small ones. But as I understand, that's correct.
Absolutely, and we still have the free sculpture park in Regent's Park, so people are able to go out and see those pieces. Do we have other questions from people or other comments, or from yourself, Julie? I'm just what I'm thinking about as well is kind of how's the response from the artists as well? What's
well, yeah, I was going to say, could we maybe ask Tina to unmute and tell us quickly what it feels like to be at the fair, but I mean, not there, but there, kind of like me.
Yeah, Tina, we'd love to have a few words if you are happy to say a few words, because obviously this is a different experience for the artists and galleries and fairs and collectors and everyone. Oh, Tina, great! I can see you're coming on.
Hello, hi everybody.
Hi.
How are you guys?
Enjoying this tour.
Thanks for coming.
Cool. Well, I just arrived a bit late. Sorry, please repeat the question.
So we were just wondering what it's been like as an artist to have this experience of a kind of hybrid virtual and physical fair, and what it's like for you to sort of experience, like a virtual event like this, at the same time as knowing, there's a physical component as well. Just curious to hear your perspectives.
It's rather interesting for me because, I mean, traditionally, art fairs generally have a lot of people that come and have a look. And then now with it being on a digital platform as well as a physical platform, I think it also enables a greater audience to have a look at the work across the world. So for me, it's a very interesting sort of feel of it.
And I think you've also had quite a few people contact you on Instagram, and people from the US, people as well as people from South Africa. We've had quite a lot of inquiries about other works of yours, not necessarily the ones that are at the fair, and that's also been interesting. So works which have been on Artsy for quite some months, we're suddenly getting a few inquiries, which is interesting.
Wow, that accessibility is fabulous. So you've got that physical exhibition, and then you've got worldwide accessibility.
Look, I think that there definitely are these benefits. I suppose my fear is whether we're all just going to really tire of virtual fairs. It is kind of like visual overload at some point. So I think the challenge for organizers is how do you really keep that curation kind of tight and not overwhelm the online experience.
That's a really good point. And actually what you've presented in the fair is, it's of a size that is very digestible. It's not overwhelming. And actually it's interesting, even in that video tour, we actually got quite good up close views of the pieces. So I'll be interested in checking out an Artsy and Christie's as well. Julie, final points from you. What would you like to leave us all with, and how can we all continue to follow Guns and Rain in the program? For those of you who are attending live today, I have popped in some links to the website and social and the art fair into the chat room. But Julie, what would you like to leave us with?
Thanks so much. Well, obviously the fair runs for one more day tomorrow, and then we have a show opening in Johannesburg later this month for a Nigerian artist called Ayobola Kekere-Okun. She uses this amazing quilling technique, laying paper strips individually, very detailed and quite poppy, quirky work. This will be our first show that we're actually having a physical opening for since the first week of March. So it's been a long time. So that'll be exciting. We're gonna kind of stage it, not have everyone there at once, but that'll be great. And then in November, we have Art Joburg, which is the kind of the Joburg Art Fair. That'll be online only. And then in December, the first week of December, we're doing Untitled Miami, and that is also online only. So yeah, brave new world of online until the end of the year, at least.
And I mean, and again, this means we can all attend the Miami fairs this year.
Right.
This means that we can all go to Untitled.
It's going to be cheaper. It's going to be cheaper, folks.
For all of us, actually. And what we can maybe do is also socially gather with collectors or with fellow gallerists or that kind of thing, and people can actually go and visit. That's what I think is fabulous, is to go and attend some of the online events actually with other people online. You can have a drink and talk about the art just like you normally would, just on the computer. I want to say a big thank you to both Tina and to Julie today. That was wonderful, and do check out gunsandrain.com. Also follow the gallery's program at Guns and Rain on Instagram. And Julie, congratulations on taking part with the gallery, with the artists, in the one physical fair happening during Frieze Week this year, and what a fabulous raving success for all it seems. So
thank you very much, Susan, and thanks to everyone who came along, and to Tina as well. Great to have you here.
Yeah, and here's to everyone. Continue with collaboration to see through these times, and to maintain the importance of accessing creativity, which I think really is very uplifting. So thank you, everyone. And until next time, ciao from the Association of Women Art Dealers. Bye.